We are going to talk another Q&A answering a lot of your questions. Again, some of these we get in our question box on Instagram. Maybe you follow us there, or, you missed the story response, right? Like, I know stories only live for 24 hours, but some of these we want to kind of elaborate a little bit more and really have you think deeper root cause than just saying X, Y, and Z supplement. Because I know a lot of people ask, like, what can I do? What can I take? What helps this? And it's like, well, when we're thinking about the body and all 11 systems together, sometimes it's not always the simple answer. So the first one I wanted to cover, because we see this very commonly, it's headaches or migraines with periods and or ovulation, right? So when we have a peak or a drop in hormones. So if you're thinking at the beginning of your cycle, right, you have the period bleed, your hormones are starting to rise and come back online. You can be very sensitive at that point in time. And then we have kind of a total peak of all hormones in the mid-cycle. Sometimes that, if you are very sensitive, can cause some of this vasodilation, this vascular integrity to be impacted. And therefore we start seeing more headaches and migraines. Outside of thinking just the electrical charge and, thinking about electrolytes, are you adequately hydrated? Are you detoxifying? You're pooping, you're peeing, you're sweating every day. What are some things that you could put in to kind of help you through this time? I think for the person, it really depends, and Becca can weigh in on this, but like even going higher with sodium potassium ratio or vice versa, higher potassium sodium ratio, kind of depending upon, you and how you respond to electrolytes. But most importantly, I think here is where I would make sure that I'm increasing my minerals. So we really like the buoy mineral drops. That can be very helpful. You could do things, adrenal cocktails. Those have a lot of vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, right? Other things that can be very helpful as well. So speaking of magnesium glycinate or L-threonate can be very helpful here. You could even go higher than like the normal dosing on the bottle, which is somewhere in the ballpark between 200 and 400 milligrams a day. I think when you're fighting this active migraine headache, you feel it coming on, I would definitely get into the ballpark of more along the lines of 400 to 600 milligrams. A good rule of thumb just in general for magnesium is about 5 milligrams of body weight, per pound of body weight, excuse me. So, you're not really going to overdo it. Glycinate's one of the most absorbed forms, but we also really like L-threonate. It crosses the blood-brain barrier, which can be helpful here. Vitamin B2, 200 to 400 milligrams a day is migraine protective. So this is something where I would recommend if you have these issues chronically and you're not working with someone yet, looking at genetics can be helpful, but also looking at micronutrients. So I've been using an intracellular nutrient test, which is really great. It's a blood panel, and it tells us what minerals and vitamins you are deficient in at the cellular level. So I had a crazy hair loss case separate from the migraine case, but we found for him, he was opposite on the copper zinc ratio, and he had a lot of other different vitamins and minerals, including vitamin A, some specific B vitamins. All right, if you're dealing with water retention, you're waking up puffy, your ankles or your wrists are really swollen, or you can't get your rings off, and maybe you're even dragging throughout the day, no matter how much water you drink, there's actually a good chance that you're not actually hydrating properly.
Exactly, because water alone is not enough. You need electrolytes, you need sodium, potassium, magnesium, because those things actually pull water into your cells. Otherwise, you're basically just flushing it out and wondering why you're still tired, you're still bloated, and you're still sluggish.
But here's the thing, most electrolyte supplements out there aren't helping you in any way, because a lot of them contain things like natural flavors, food dyes, and maltodextrin, which can irritate your gut. And these things can also spike your blood sugar when you're trying to heal.
That's why we both started using Buoy. It's super simple, just trace minerals and electrolytes in liquid form. No flavors, no colors, no sugar, no sweeteners, and you squeeze it into whatever you are drinking. Water, coffee, tea, smoothies, you name it.
And it's clinically backed by science too. So studies have shown that Buoy helps you hydrate better, 64% better in fact, and that's data coming from key blood and urinary markers, not just marketing fluff. And honestly, you can feel the difference. I've had many clients tell me their digestion's improved, they have less headaches, and they're better energy throughout the day.
And Buoy isn't just for people that go to the gym all the time and sweat a bunch. They actually offer a 35% lifetime discount for anyone that's struggling with chronic illnesses. Things like POTS, Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease, chronic migraines, and every autoimmune condition. They're really committed to making better hydration accessible to people who need it most.
I actually throw it in my coffee every morning because it's such an easy upgrade. You don't even taste it, but you're definitely gonna notice if you miss it.
If you're tired of playing hydration roulette and want something that actually supports your body, you've got to try Buoy. It's honestly one of the simplest ways to feel better faster.
That popped up that we were able to support. But in general, B2 riboflavin is protective. And then CoQ10. This is a great mitochondrial support as well. You could use it as a blend or by itself, 100 to 200 milligrams a day. And this can help the mitochondrial stability in the brain tissue. And then from a pain standpoint, we just like anything very anti-inflammatory. So here you could think turmeric, ginger, curcumin, SPM, specific modulators. I'm blanking on the P in that, but prokinetic modulators.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on it, but SPMs. Yeah. And they are ones that if you have histamine issues, can be safe for inflammation as well. You can also do teas to really support migraines. And then I would just thinking about other stressors and not putting too much on your plate. Headaches and migraines are the worst. I have a sister that has them chronically, and it all started in menopause. Damn hormones.
So I think that bringing back to kind of like the reasoning around migraines in that time of life with perimenopause, it's a combination, right? So the estrogen levels, when they drop really sharply, they basically destabilize the chemical environment with serotonin. And then progesterone should be more of that calming, like GABAergic type effect. And when you lose progesterone, you tend to have more anxiousness, less, proper sleep. But the biggest piece is that the uterine lining, prior to shedding, releases prostaglandins. And so if you are already inflamed, that prostaglandin level that gets released are going to be at a higher rate. And so those are inflammatory molecules. So inflammatory environment, destabilization of those chemicals, that serotonin, that GABA, and it's kind of a perfect storm. Like your body otherwise should be able to tolerate those shifts in serotonin. But if you are not methylating properly or detoxifying those neurotransmitters and you're already inflamed, it's just going to worsen what you're feeling. And so it's not only, stabilizing the hormones, the neurotransmitters, the nutrient deficiencies that can happen, but on top of all that, like we got to get the inflammation down. And magnesium is one of my favorites because it actually lowers prostaglandin levels, which is why it works so well prior to your cycle. So histamine, all those fun things can also play a big role here. But yeah, that is where we start with all of that. Okay, so next question, another one that can be very hormone related is a bitter taste in the mouth. So wondering if this is SIBO or perimenopause are at play. So when it comes to perimenopause, estrogen, again, plays a very large role in tissue health. And it modulates actually the salivary flow in the mouth and the sensitivity to your taste buds. So lower levels can essentially create like this dry mouth and also like an altered taste perception, which is crazy. That can be experienced as a metallic or a bitter taste in the mouth. And then progesterone also influences bile flow and oral tissues, and a drop in that will increase oral inflammation and gum sensitivity, which indirectly can also change taste. And then hot flashes and night sweats. So they are basically sympathetic surges. So think of like a stress surge that happens when these hot flashes happen, and it can reduce salivary secretion, which leaves a dry coating that feels bitter and metallic. So all of those possibilities could be driving this, but there's also some digestive pieces that could be at play here.
Yeah. So anything that is happening in the gut microbiome is influenced by your oral microbiome. So we have a lot of these markers on our stool test that show us different bacteria and biofilms more specifically that can come from the oral cavity. So if you've not looked into your dental health first, I think that's a good place to start here, especially if you're thinking about this chronic ongoing bitter taste in the mouth. But just from things that can impact this. So we know that low stomach acid or altered digestion. So this can be seen in a variety of phases of life, high stress times. I think about some individuals who are just on lockdown mode in terms of digestion when they're, highly stressed, while other people are like slip and slides, so it hits everybody a little bit differently. But what we do know is high stress results in a lot of nutritional deficiencies. When we have undigested food that is, sitting in the colon, or it is just moving through at a really, really slow rate, this can feed bacterial overgrowth, and that can produce these bitter compounds. I'm blanking right now. I don't have it pulled up in front of me. There's a list of bacteria that we look at in stool testing that can tell us if this is related to the oral microbiome and that food, kind of resulting in that overgrowth. And that can even be associated with like sulfur smelling, like burping and different things like that. GERD or silent reflux. So again, this is going to come down to typically low stomach acid. Very rare cases is it too much. But if there is acid or bile that's reaching the throat and the mouth, this is going to give you a sour or bitter sensation. Think of a time that you threw up and you had stomach acid, that yellowy or like bile acid secretion, like it leaves a really strange taste in your mouth. It hurts your teeth, right? You want to never experience that if you don't have to, but brush your teeth right away. And what we do know is that different seasons of life, specifically in perimenopause, again, this time of life is just a bitch. Like, I don't have any other name for it. No matter how well you try to ride this wave through, like you're getting ahead and you're on hormones. Like I have a few gals right now, shit's just popping up. They're already on testosterone and progesterone. Like I saw a reel yesterday. I totally want to recreate it. It's like everything in life is smooth sailing, and you finally get to the body composition that you want, and then boom, your skin starts sagging. It's like, come on, it's like as much as you want to do with collagen and creatine and like all of these things, GHKCU, copper peptide, like there's just so much that comes in perimenopause that it's just a bitch. There's no other name for it. So anyways, but that can impact your lower esophageal sphincter, and that can also worsen this. Gallbladder or bile flow changes. So again, bile acid reflux, we're more going to see this as in terms of like acid reflux, which can give that bitter taste, or if you are vomiting up like a yellow stomach acid looking, kind of secretion, that's going to be more from a bile acid secretion, not stomach acid. So a lot of things there. When we think about deficiencies, I think that's the biggest thing that I would look at here, because we do a lot of zinc testing orally. At least I do for my clients, to see if they're zinc deficient. And so that's going to alter your taste perception. But if you take zinc and you put it in orally and you don't have any taste or sensation to it, you're very zinc deficient. So that could be playing a role here. And that is very common in situations where there's a lot of gut dysbiosis, low stomach acid, low alkaline phosphate, low ferritin. Like there's a lot of things that low blood cell count, right? Zinc plays a role in, and it's very strong for supporting stomach acid production, but also for the immune system. And then that kind of goes hand in hand with B vitamin deficiencies. Stomach acid is reliant on zinc and B vitamins, but this one, B12 and B9 folate specifically, can impact the nerve conduction in taste buds, which could also be a reason for this.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you can always look at like your medications. So SSRIs, antihistamines, blood pressure meds can all potentially cause a discrepancy or like a skewed taste profile. Stress and cortisol can alter salivary composition. Yes, SIBO and oral microbiome changes. And then sometimes things like bitters or berberine or NAC or bile salts, like all of them can potentially cause this bitter taste that lingers afterwards. So evaluate what you're on. Evaluate hormone levels, evaluate gut health. There's always a reason. They always say like, there's always a reason that it's happening. And I'm sure we can, get to the bottom of it. So the last question is around a lot of questions I get in my DMs about progesterone, because progesterone has kind of this, it's going to save everything in terms of like your sleep's going to get better, your mood's going to be stabilized, and people take it because they feel so out of body during perimenopause. They feel anxious and they feel, irritable, and they're not sleeping and they're getting inflamed, and all of these things are happening. Their periods are really heavy, or they have really short cycles. And so they think progesterone is going to be this fix all. And then they go on it and things get worse. They have more anxiety. They have worse sleep. They hold on to a bunch of water weight all of a sudden, right? And so is it you? Is it the progesterone? The thing that I always tell people is that your body lived with progesterone inside of it for decades. It is not the progesterone. That is not the problem. And I find that there's a couple of main drivers that this happens. And one of the biggest ones is the predisposition to turn things into glutamate. So glutamate is kind of like the evil sister of GABA. So GABA is the nice, calming, sedative byproduct post-progesterone. So progesterone gets created in the brain, it turns to allopregnenolone, and then allopregnenolone feeds into what should be GABA, which is your neurotransmitter. That's, again, calming, sedative. But some people genetically push more towards the glutamate pathway. So glutamate is excitatory. It drives a lot of like anxiousness. It can drive a lot of inflammation. And so you're feeding that pathway potentially if you put it in without other supports around it. The other thing that we often see is issues with histamine. So if people are not clearing or detoxifying via the liver very well, then we'll see a lot of times this histamine buildup or intolerance and even mast cell situations. And progesterone goes into that and can essentially like muddy the waters even more, because I always say that hormones are amplifiers, right? They're gonna amplify an already current situation. So if that already current situation is a mess, it's gonna make it messier, unfortunately. And so it's the environment, it's potentially the dose that you went in with, which was too high for a lot of people. Like, hormones are strong chemical messengers. You haven't had progesterone in your body for a year plus, and you throw in 100 milligrams of progesterone, like you're going from 0 to 100 real fast. You're going to feel that in most cases. And so I'm a big proponent of it is much easier to start at a very low dose, feel nothing, and go up than it is to start at a very high dose, have it all.
If you feel tired all the time and you're drinking water, you're probably missing electrolytes, because you need electrolytes to get intracellularly hydrated. We love Buoy because this is an easy way to get in sodium, potassium, magnesium, and trace minerals into your day without any of the junk fillers that most powders use.
All of the negative side effects, and then have to basically back your way out of that.
And detoxify those hormones and ride this wave for a period of time. This is why we don't like pellets, right? Because if you have a pellet that's put in you and you get this huge surge in dose, or just, it's a little bit too high, or even if it's not enough, right? Whatever it is, you can't change it. It's in till the next time that, you go for a new one. And so for me, and this is generally what I do with a lot of my clients who are not coming in on bioidentical hormones, is I have them use Progon B or Quicksilver progesterone. We go low and slow up. If they get to that full dose, which is 40 milligrams for the Progon B, for example, okay, now they want to do some compounded 50s or, 75, whatever, because they want a little bit more, then great. That is completely fine. But I also have people coming in who have been prescribed hundreds or 200s and they can't tolerate it. Like, I have one gal right now, she doesn't need more than like 20 milligrams. If she has it, she feels worse, sleep gets impaired, her digestion gets wonky. Like, she just does not do well with higher doses. And that's great, because we want minimal effective dose. So if you're somebody who's like, hey, I have my doctor giving me Prometrium, that only comes in 100 milligrams. If you want something less, you're going to have to go compounded, or you're going to have to do like the supplemental form, which is still progesterone, but it's just not going to be high dose. And so we have those in our full script account as well. I think a lot of this is, anytime you're putting in the hormone, we've talked about this several times, you want to think about your detox pathways. Are your detox pathways opened, and are they supported? So, for example, we talked a lot about being on testosterone. If we aromatize into estrogen and we're already a little estrogen dominant, even with some progesterone in play, we don't want that to build up. So we really want to make sure that we're covering phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 detoxification. And that could be as simple as adding in a broad spectrum liver support. It could be things like calcium diglucarate, DIM, or brassicas, broccoli sprouts. Those are all really nice things. We like a product called Estro Freedom. That's a nice blend. You can use other ones out there depending upon what you specifically need. I like calcium diglucarate to be in the mix because that helps block enzymatic functions in the gut from reactivating estrogen. Because again, you might not be estrogen dominant on paper, but you might have high levels of this beta glucuronidase. Hint, hint, this also goes hand in hand with mold toxicity. I see it all the time. I see that in addition to Zen mycotoxins on total tox tests. So you're not estrogen dominant on labs, but you have estrogen recirculating, and so it's acting estrogen dominant, right? Progesterone is not going to fix that. You need to support your liver and detoxification pathways. So I think that's really important, because if your liver is backed up, it's burdened, it's sluggish, excess progesterone or adding in hormones to this environment, that can lead to things accumulating and then making you feel more puffy, tired, bogged down. Just not a good scenario. So I would always say, if you're on any type of hormone replacement therapy, make sure that you're supporting the liver.
Yeah. So the last thing that we'll kind of round this out with is hormones are amazing. I am a huge fan of hormones. You have to know your body. And if you are someone that is already dealing with symptoms, you're already slightly reactive, Like, one, get blood work, fix what you can fix before going on them if possible, or alongside them. Start low and slow, add one hormone at a time. It doesn't need to be like you wait 6 months before you add in the second hormone, but at least a couple of weeks to make sure your body can feel that. And progesterone can stimulate hormone receptors of other hormones. So, like, even though it's just progesterone, you may get estrogenic symptoms from putting in progesterone if, like Liz was saying, you're not clearing these things, you're not detoxifying these things. I do love L-theanine and GABA and taurine. They help kind of stabilize the glutamate pathways and the GABA pathways. And then I love Nuopept. I found that Nuopept in the morning seems to pull down the glutamate load. And so people that deal with a lot of insomnia, a lot of sleep issues, irritability, the Nuopept has seemed to, and it's cheap. We love it from Limitless Life. Has really seemed to improve a lot of those symptoms that are very glutamate related. So lots of options. You can take progesterone. I encourage taking progesterone, even if you don't have a uterus. It's an amazing, amazing hormone and an amazing support.